we're all here to hear about how awesome programs are built and maintained, and how we maintain relationships within our community to make sure that these programs last for a long time, whether they're from farmers markets to restaurants within our community. And I would love to pass it over to hear from Sabrina, one of our Standout University chapters. Take it away.
Awesome. Thank you so much for the introduction. Hi, everyone. For people who didn't hear me in the beginning, my name is Sabrina. I'm a current junior at Emory University. I'm a bio major and a math minor, and I've been in Slow Food Emory since my freshman year. And I'm the current president of the club. I don't have like a structured format for how I'm like going about this. So if anyone has questions as I'm talking, please just cut me off or just jump in or type in the chat. So I kind of just wanted to share a little bit about like our journey and how we've grown into a pretty big club. Slow Food Emory kind of had faded away by the time I was coming in. I think due to COVID, it was hard to do a lot of programs that they used to do, and there was a transition in the leadership. So we started with around like 20-ish members in our club, and then now we have over 500. So it's grown a lot in the past couple of years. So I just wanted to touch on some of like our big like initiatives that we have that I think has allowed the club to grow this big. So we have three main initiatives, and again, please jump in if you have any questions as I'm talking about these. But the first main initiative that we have is every Sunday we go to a farmer's market. It's one of the biggest ones in Atlanta, and we collect their surplus produce and we cook that up within the day, like immediately, at a free housing place, and we serve the food for patients who are getting cancer treatment at the Emory hospitals. It's a free housing location for them. So we do that every Sunday, and this has worked really well. The signups fill really fast. We allow for around 20 volunteers a week to cook in the kitchen. And when I post the signups for the month, it fills within like a minute, literally. So it's really a popular event. People really like it. Um, it's been a way also for like college students to like learn how to cook. We have like a big range of cooking experience. I always tell people that like you don't have to know how to cook at all because there's other people who do, and then they kind of like tuck them under their wing, and then like it's really fun to have different levels working together. And I think that's part of it is the volunteer enjoyment, but also feeling like you're doing something that's useful. And also we're reducing waste and making like really healthy meals because we're getting fresh produce from the market. So that's been a really successful initiative. And then recently, oh, thank you for popping the Instagram in. Recently, we had an organization reach out and ask if they could sponsor us. And so now some of our vendors have taken it up. So basically, this organization, it's called Rataza, they're paying some of the vendors for the produce that they give to us, just because this organization saw like what we were doing and wanted to support in any way that they could. So that's been really cool. It's like a way to give back to the vendors as well. Now, like they've been giving us produce for free, but now they're getting compensated, which is really cool. So that's a new development. Oh,
Um,
sorry, I saw a hand.
yeah, so Stephanie's got her hand up.
Thank you, Sabrina. That's really cool. So I'm just curious on the cooking side. So do you have like somebody like who takes the lead like to see here's what the surplus is and here's what we can make with it, or how does that work?
Mhm. That's a good question. Like volunteers always ask, like, do you guys have like a set plan? And honestly, it's like a cooking show. People compare it to like there's a show called like Chopped. I haven't seen it, but basically like every week we don't know what we're gonna get. Like sometimes we've got like radishes or like we get some random, we've gotten bitter melon before, like because it didn't sell very well at the market. So sometimes we get like random produce and then we just have to figure out like what we can make. Because one of the good things about the Hope Lodge, and there's other similar like free housing places, they get a lot of food donations, like pantry goods. And so there's like rice and beans and like canned chicken. So whatever they have, like if they have tortillas, that's kind of like fantastic because like we can make like fajitas. Or oh, eggs is another good one. We've made like blueberry bread pudding, um, like lion's mane crab cake bites. That was a new thing that we tried. So like every week it's literally like what can we make? It's very much creativity and that kind of like I think that's very fun for the volunteers as well. Like they can do whatever they like feel like doing. And a lot of people have learned how to like cook for themselves from doing that. So yeah, it's definitely like it seems chaotic, but like and sometimes it's overwhelming how much produce we have, but it always comes together at the end. Yeah, on our Instagram every week, that's another thing is we post what we make every week and we tag all of our vendors so people like the vendors can see exactly where their produce is going. And sometimes they'll repost like, oh, that's the mushroom that I gave them. So it's that's really cool as well. Um, I saw a question, do you have professional guidance, food handlers cards okay with the health department? For us, we follow the Hope Lodge's guidelines. Like they tell us like wear long pants, wear gloves, hair tied back. And then the exec board is food safety certified. There's a thing called Food Recovery Network, and we all did their training in terms of like how long can we have the food be sitting out. We try to get the food served within 2 hours. So the exec board has training in that, and then we kind of just guide everyone. And then like in terms of cleaning dishes, like it all needs to be sanitized because like we scrub it down, but then we put it in their like special dishwashers like pans and knives, even though it's not ideal, but we just want to make sure everything's really clean. So Hope Lodge has like guidelines because they're very careful about their residents. Awesome. Are there any other questions about this initiative? It's definitely kind of like gotten bigger than we thought. Uh-huh. Did someone say something?
I'm just going to say for a second, I'm Lori, for those who don't know me, and I have the pleasure of working with Sabrina. She's incredibly modest, and what she has built at Emory, she started by herself with a handful of people and literally no money, zero, zero, zero money. I could go on for a long time, but I just wanted to mention, I mean, she's got a double major, she's got a rigorous school career, and at the moment, you can barely get into the club, Slow Food Emory. They just had a day welcoming new club members when school started, and now like they're at capacity. So kudos to you. I could go on, but I won't. You know how I feel about you and what you're doing.
Thank you, Lori. Honestly, and Lori's helped us so much. Like without Slow Food Atlanta, like they support us. Like I've met with Lori many times for advice and they helped us get t-shirts. So Slow Food Atlanta has been fantastic. So thank you so much, Lori.
And I think it'd be fun for you to tell the group, like on weeks, like when you get one ingredient, like the egg. I love following your Instagram; it's great. But like, for example, the week you got only eggplant, like, can you tell them about that?
That's true. Sometimes like if there's an excess of a certain crop, like a lot of the vendors during certain seasons get like the same thing. So sometimes we get like 50 or 60 pounds of eggplant. And then everyone just like splits up and tries different methods of eggplant preparation. It's a very creative process. Like we had one group make like baba ganoush, one group did like eggplant parmesan, one group did like grilled eggplant, one group did like I don't know, they like blended eggplant somehow. It was like an eggplant smoothie of some sort. Oh wait, I see the warning of, oh gosh, time really went by. But yeah, that was kind of yeah, that's our one of our main initiatives. I'll jump over quickly to the other two initiatives that I was going to talk about in the last minute. But our other one that we just got back into this year is we do food recoveries at our dining halls. So we package up the surplus food into meal containers, and then we take it to the library and hand it back to students on campus. There's also a fridge that's starting up for staff, so we can put it in a fridge and give it back to staff on campus. So that one's going very well as well. And then we have a cooking demo that our club won a grant for, where we show students how to work with seasonal produce. We just did an heirloom tomato demo on vegan aioli and whole wheat bread, and we just showed students like how to like assemble and make the aioli, and then like everyone got to try it, and it's a lot of fun. So yeah, and then we have like random like fun events, like we did sustainable pizza making, we did like a truffle rolling event. So there's a lot of like little events like that to spark interest as well. Yeah.
Yeah, that's incredible. I also wanted to, I know like 10 to 12 minutes goes by super fast. The layout for this evening is a bit of content for the first hour, but there will be kind of like a lobby-esque situation for the last 30 minutes. So if you want to hang around for the last 30 and ask Sabrina all the questions specifically about that aioli, we'd love to have you all in that space. But Sabrina, you are absolutely crushing it out in Atlanta. And yeah, please keep your questions for Sabrina on your mind. You can write it down. You can even jot it in the chat and we can wrap back up to it later. But I wanted to thank you for sharing.
So thank you so much.
Sweet. And as Sabrina mentioned, got a lot of help from the next folks that are about to be speaking. I'd like to bring on the Atlanta crew who are quite cozy in the screen. So after you.
Hey, can you hear us? Okay, great. Oh, what sort of programs we're putting on up at the chapter? So we were very intentional this year with making sure we heard from our members at large at our annual meeting. And so Lori had this cute idea of us presenting mason jars and kind of subjecting each mason jar with a particular type of event. So some people said they might want to do a foraging hike. Some people said they want to like play with baby goats, farm to table dinners, and pasta making. So we had about maybe 14 or 15 jars folks can vote for. And so from those results, as a board, we decided to make sure we focus our events on those things that the members decided. So whoever got the highest votes, we decided for each month, some of our members will go ahead and take on those events. So we kind of divvy up the work. We make sure it's diverse, we make sure it's accessible. We have events from, we just had like a muscadine and oyster event, which could be a high-end ticket, but it was priced to make sure it was accessible. We've had a farm to table dinner with a cool new farm partner. We've had volunteer days at the farm. We also had a cool fundraising or book selling event for Stephen Satterfield, who's like a superstar of slow food. And so each month we just want to make sure that different members are able to participate and mix with each other. And we're hoping to reignite our book club. So we have had some interest from folks. And so our next event for October, which Kamiko headed up, is our Architaste book event. So each month is a new focus, and Atlanta is extremely diverse, as you all know. As the slogan goes, Atlanta influences everything, which is cool. Atlanta really does, and so we want to make sure that all Atlantans, either transplant or from here, have things to participate in. Let's see. So again, I said it's monthly, and all of our board members, so we have, 16? We've had a few folks who've had to step back because of personal needs, but all of us have different networks. So some of us are corporate, some of us are nonprofit, some of us have had school networks or garden networks. or farm networks. So a lot of our members have CSAs with various food organizations here in the city, which is awesome. And so a lot of us are foodies, know the latest restaurant to go to. A lot of us eat well or frequent farmers markets. And so we try to use those networks that we previously had in our personal lives to just make sure we make the right connections for our event planning. So oftentimes it's not, someone on the board knows so-and-so from so-and-so, and so it's kind of an easy grab to do these events. So that's pretty much how we are doing. We do have our whole year planned out, and so at our retreat, we went ahead and planned our year out, and now we're actually planning for after the year, so, you know, in the new year. We're kind of thinking about Terra Madre. We're thinking about Snail of Approval, which Kamiko will talk about soon. And yeah, anybody got any questions so far?
So there are a couple in the chat, how you figure out pricing for events. So, you know, I guess we'll talk about events a little bit later on in more detail. But we are still trying to figure out the magic combo, right? Understanding that some of our events are not going to be money makers, but some of them are. And so what's the pricing strategy so that we can make sure that we cover our operating expenses and then raise enough money to grant make, right? And so, you know, honestly, it's just there's a lot of conversation on Slack about ticket pricing, and you know, every event is built out with a budget of anticipated expenses, and so you know, from there we just have a lot of conversation among the board members to settle on the pricing structure for the different events. And then two, we've also just added to our Eventbrite for a pay what you can, right? Just making sure that price is not a barrier for folks. Okay, and then the next question was, what strategies do you use to engage volunteers? So our volunteer orientation is called Slow Food 101. One of our board members runs that, which happens about every other month or once a quarter. And so attending Slow Food 101 is a requirement for you to be able to volunteer with us. And it's just, you know, a basic orientation about slow food and about our chapter specifically, and then what kind of volunteer roles there are. And then Habiba, the woman who leads the Slow Food 101 orientation, just conducts really thoughtful and thorough follow-up with folks to see what kind of volunteer experiences they would like. Are they interested in, you know, helping to clean up or make a playlist or fill in the blank. And so that has just been she's new to the board. She came on in February 2023, and she has owned Slow Food 101 in a really impressive way. So our volunteers this is a small but mighty pool of volunteers, but folks are satisfied and feel engaged. All right. What else? What else do you want to hear from us, Dion?
Yeah, I think the Arc of Taste event that Andrea alluded to from Kamiko would be really awesome to hear about.
Right on.
Sure. So we are having an event on October 15th. We have invited David Shields down to talk about the Arc of Taste book. And we've also used the opportunity to bring down a second author and food historian and expert on Southern food history. So we're bringing down Diane Flint. She's a Southern apple expert. So there's a little bit of overlap between apples and Arc of Taste as well. So, and Diane and David know each other, so that's great. So we're bringing them together for a moderated discussion. It's being moderated by a local Atlanta celebrity who does a show around politics in Georgia. So we tried to branch out a little bit, someone who wasn't necessarily in food, but is a really great host and moderator, and trying to draw in a little bit of a new crowd too, through his reach. So we are doing the event at one of our Snail of Approval awardees. So it's at a bakery. We're doing it in the evening, and the bakery is already engaged with one of our partners called George Organics. And so George Organics is, they are going to, through another program that they have, they are working with BIPOC farms across the state of Georgia and pairing them with retail partners like bakeries and restaurants, and selling Arc of Taste items to these restaurants and bakeries. So the Snail of Approval awardee that we're working with is already paired with a farm partner who is producing the Nancy Hall sweet potato. So they're going to use that sweet potato that's already being grown to make some sweet potato biscuits using a recipe that David Shields came up with. They're going to make an apple turnover, hopefully also using Arc of Taste apples. We have actually a cider sponsor from Vermont who is coming in with cider that is made from Arc of Taste apples. So it's going to really be a celebration of Arc of Taste and of apples as well. So we're really excited about that event coming up. And we've tried to, on that one, it's not one that we're using for a big fundraiser for the actual ticket. So we've kept the ticket prices quite low, but then we're selling books to try to do some fundraising on top of the low ticket sales.
Yeah. And so then just to address some of the questions in the chat, let's see here. Do we, all right, let me back it up. Yes, happy to share our Slow Food 101 orientation. Our email was listed, Andrea and my emails are in the invitation. And then how do we recruit board members? So both through personal connections and on Instagram. We just push it, and our newsletters as well. So we have a fairly new comms team, and they have really done a fantastic job with again, regular, thoughtful, routine communication, right? Like we have a monthly e-newsletter. We then will send out, emails about our event, try really hard not to spam folks, are incredibly good at making sure that we tag people who are involved in our event on Instagram, so then it's reshared and reshared and reshared. So that's how we've recruited board members. And then we are not paying anyone to participate in the Arc of Taste event. We may have to cover housing for one person one night.
We're housing David, and then the agreement, instead of in lieu of an honorarium, is we're purchasing books.
Yeah. And so then, but we have also given honorariums. So the event that we had with to celebrate Stephen Satterfield's new book was co-hosted by a very iconic artist and a fantastic Italian restaurant who happened to share a parking lot. And so that artist was given an honorarium. And we made sure that we always negotiate on, or not negotiate, but we, discuss on the front end with restaurants if their staff are involved in our events, what's a fair payout for y'all, what's a fair tip. Is that it? Is there other questions?
Yeah, I think that was all. Those were all the questions that were in the chat. I really loved the last bit that you shared, because I think that paying people who are part of events is a really important part of this.
Oh yeah, I mean that's the fair part, right, of the work that we do.
Exactly. Getting paid is easy. The fair part is what people often forget about, and that's massively important. So are you okay with if we share you can share your contact info in the chat with folks?
Oh, yeah, for sure. Yeah, happy to do that. Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, and if you all want to, not just the presenters today, but anyone within the chat, if you want to share your contact info, and you're comfortable doing so, feel free to drop it into the chat. And if you have more questions for the Atlanta cohort, please hold on to it. Remember, we have the last 30 minutes beyond 9 o'clock Eastern time to throw some conversations around too. But for now, thank you. Thank you, Atlanta. And as we transition out of the Southeast, we'll make a stopover in Utah with Gwen to hear a bit about what's happening in that part of the region from Snail of Approval and beyond.
Yeah. Hi. So I'm Gwen. I'm from the Slow Food Utah chapter. I live in Salt Lake. Our chapter covers the whole state of Utah, even though it's a really big place because there aren't any other chapters in the state. So, and we all get around a bit and touch base with people in other parts of the state. So what I wanted to talk about today specifically was the Snail of Approval program. I joined Slow Food back in, I think, 2007, and my first big experience was Slow Food Nation in San Francisco. For those of you that maybe went to that was a hook that really hooked me in. And so I was the board chair for our chapter for 10 years until 2021. And when I stepped off the board, I didn't go away. I just now run this committee for Snail of Approval. And our committee consists of 5 of us. There's me, there's 2 board members, and then there's 2 members from the community. And so we had a Snail Award program prior to the national office launching the nationwide Snail of Approval program. And so we had quite a few awards that we had given out before then, and they were grandfathered into the program. So currently we have 21 on our list. We have 6 farmer ranchers, 8 restaurant deli caterers, 6 food artisans, coffee, cheese, charcuterie, bitters, fermented food, salsa, Caribbean sauces. So we have quite a wide range of awardees, and they are all over the state, from down in southern Utah in Kanab, and over in eastern Utah in Vernal and Duchesne, and northern Utah in Logan and Cache Valley, and then the Salt Lake area. There's quite a few of them. So I love the Snail of Approval program because it's like a ready-made launch pad for events. Like, you've got these awardees, oftentimes restaurants or farms that you really want to highlight, and events are easy to plan around that. So it's really been a lot of fun for me personally, but hopefully for everybody. We have held 4 events so far since launching it here locally, and we've got another one in the planning stages. The first one we did was a launch party, we called it, and it was held at a local grocer retailer that is one of our very early awardees. In fact, he likes to remind me that he was the first official member of Slow Food in Salt Lake City, so that's kind of cool. But anyway, we had a little party on his patio of his little store. It's this little store called Liberty Heights Fresh, and we had some of the other awardees come and set up a little table with their wares. There was a farmer there, and a coffee maker, Cafe Ibis, and several others, a rancher. And that was a free event, and all this, we had, snacks and everything. And our goal with these events is really to keep them low cost or free, so that it's a very inclusive, low barrier to entry and to finding out about the program. The next one we had was at a restaurant. It's called Log Haven. It's up in one of the canyons up here, and a really beautiful place. And that one was just $25, and it had a cash bar, in addition. The laws around that in Utah are a little funny, so we had to have that separate. But they provided appetizers, and it was really very generous. The third one was at our charcuterie and butcher shop called Beltex Fine Meats, and he had a lot of samples and did a tour and, you know, showed some of the ways that he was trained in Italy on salumi. So, and then the fourth one was down in Kanab. And if any of you guys have ever been to Kanab, Utah, beautiful Red Rock Desert down by Zion National Park. And this restaurant is called Sago. And he did a full family style sit down dinner for just $50. And there were a lot of people in attendance. He and his family talked at length about their love of the slow food mission. So that was really great. And we have one in the works that is a cocktail class with our bitters. It's Bitters Lab is the name of the business, and she makes bitters here in Salt Lake. And we're going to do a little cocktail class with the local distillery and some of the charcuterie from the other Snail of Approval awardee. So it's just, we try to feature, like, you know, as many awardees as we can in a single event to try to really highlight the program, but sometimes it is just a single feature. Let's see. So once someone has earned a Snail of Approval, is it forever, or is there a time frame when they have to renew? So I think it varies a lot by chapter. It started out being every 2 years you would renew. Some chapters do an online form or a like a site visit or an interview. Because our chapter is so small, maybe this will change when the numbers get bigger of our awardees, but we just know them. And if we know something has changed, like ownership or, you know, something like that, then we'll go and interview them and make sure that things are still within, you know, what they said they were originally. And then we just give them the new stickers each year. So for us, it's a little bit different. That varies by chapter, and we can talk about that more later if you want. And how do we fund the food and appetizers? They're all donated by the restaurant. So the first party that we did that was free, all those vendors that came, or those awardees, they just provided the snacks. The two that we've done at restaurants and the one at the charcuterie, they provided the food, and then the proceeds have come back to us. So, you know, again, very, very generous working with these guys. But the one I really wanted to talk about today, this series of events that we are doing, is called Films on Food at Farms. Say that 10 times really fast. And I'm super excited about this event because I think it's just a ton of fun. It's a way to really include a lot of aspects of our local community. So I have a couple of slides, and Dion, whenever you're ready, you can just pop them in. So this is like one of the flyers for our most recent one. You can see that it was sponsored by Sundance Film Festival, their local lens program. And it was held at Three Springs Land and Livestock in Oakley, Utah. That's kind of by Park City. You guys are probably familiar with Park City. And it featured them, and I'll talk a little more about the details. And then if you want to show another one, go to so that's the next one is one that was held at Wasatch Community Gardens, their main campus in the city. And I'll talk more about that later, but we did a little tour of the farm and then watched the film. And then if you go to the last, the one in the middle, sorry, is the screen. So it's really cool, inflatable, big screen that they blow up, they set it up. You can't really have a windy night for this, but it's all hooked down, and then they provide the projector, and I'll get into more details about that. So you can go off the slides if you want to, or keep showing them. Okay, so this is a series of events that are outdoor screenings of a film, and it's a documentary that's focused on food and farming. And we show them at a local farm or a community garden. We then have a food option that folks can order ahead of time and pick up at the screening. So it's delivered there, and then they pick them up there, and they can have a picnic while watching the film, or they can bring their own food. And the film itself is free. The screening is totally free. The food is made by one of our Snail of Approval awardees. And the screening is free, but you can order the food separately and pay for it separately online, and then it's delivered to the event, and you just pick it up there and eat it there. And then there's a tour of the farm or garden included always with this, and followed by the film and food. You bring a blanket and a chair and just, relax, settle in, watch a movie, and enjoy the beautiful outdoor environment and the weather here, which is always really nice in the evening. The first one we did was at that Wasatch Community Gardens campus that you saw, and this is a local organization that has been around for about 30 some years, and they do community gardens all over the valley, the Salt Lake Valley. And this was their main campus where they have their educational programs and stuff. It's a beautiful space. They have that little amphitheater thing where you can put the screen up on top. It was great. And the food was provided for this one by Spice Kitchen Incubator, which is an incubator kitchen for refugees that's operated by the International Rescue Committee here in Salt Lake. And they provided the food for that one. And then the film for that one was Following the Drinking Gourd. If you guys are familiar with that one, it's about the Black food justice movement. So the second one, oh geez, I gotta hurry. Usually I talk really fast. I don't know, maybe I'm doing too much here. The second one was at a charter high school in the valley called Roots High, and this is a charter school that focuses on farming, and it's a beautiful school. And they had it in the garden there, and the food was done by a Snail of Approval awardee, Urban Pioneer Foods, and the film for that one was Food for the Rest of Us. The third one was back at Wasatch Community Gardens, and the food was provided by Central Ninth Market, which is one of our newer awardees. And it was The Ants and the Grasshopper, about two Malawi women who come to America. It's a fabulous film, highly recommend that one. And the fourth one was the one with the flyer that I first showed you at Three Springs Livestock. It's a regenerative agriculture farm in the valley over there, and another Snail of Approval awardee provided the food for that using chicken from the ranch. And the film for that one was Ruth Reichel's Food and Country. And the filmmaker was here on that one because it was a partnership with Sundance Film Festival. They got the filmmaker there to ask questions. So just kind of real quickly, we get around 50 to 60 people for these. The last one had over 100 because the farm tour that was given by these guys just really generated a lot of excitement. A lot of people really wanted to come. We have partners for these that help cover the screening costs and the equipment rental. That's from Utah Film Center. They go half with us on that. The Plant-Based Utah does a donation. Sundance Film Festival, Utah Zone, which is a part of our Utah Department of Agriculture here. So we look for partnerships. The goals are really to promote the Snail of Approval and to highlight those local farms. And eventually, if we can get some grants or some sponsorships that are bigger, we'd like to provide a micro grant that goes back to the farm that's the host. So that's our eventual goal with it, and we're working on that. Yeah. So any questions? I can, we can talk about it more later too. But I'll put my email in the chat, and if you have any questions about it, let me know.
Yeah. Yeah, there is a question. What we can do is I'd love to skip on over to Debbi in Sonoma County, and I will have a question ready for you in the 30 minutes afterwards from Karen Stark. But thank you so much for the media rundown happening in Utah, and I'd love to introduce Debbi.
Hi, I'm Debbi Crapeau, and I'm on the board for Sonoma County North, which is in Northern California. And up here we have a couple of different clubs or chapters right near us, Russian River and Sonoma County North. And I'm just going to talk about what we do, and then there's one project that we do with Russian River. We have several different projects that we have going on at any one time. And so I'm just going to give a real quick overview of all of those, several of those. We have the Bodega Red project. It is a potato that was grown in the area of Bodega here in Sonoma County. and it was almost extinct, and we found it, we had it cleaned up, and now every year we sell these bodega red potato seeds to local farmers, and they grow those out, sell them at farmers markets, and we've made I think a really big impact on bringing back this potato. Our chapter really focuses on the agriculture side of slow food because we are in an agricultural area. So we do something called the grow out, where we buy Arc of seed tastes for as many farms as request them. And I think our biggest year has been like 15 farms one time, and our lowest has been like 3 farms. But we'll send out a list of seeds that they can order from us. We will buy those seeds and send those out to the farms. In addition to that, with our School Garden Network program, we will do a grow out for the kids. We will actually plant many of the seeds, give them seedlings to, I think we have 8 different schools, and we will provide seedlings and seeds for the schools, and they get to order what they want from a list that we give them. Let's see. Oh, and along with the farmers, we have the local farmer grant program, where we provide $1,000 grant to a local farm through a grant, a call for a grant. So people will apply, and we have a committee who will then determine the grant for that year. And we used to do it every year, and it was $500, and we have just recently moved it back to every 2 years for $1,000. We just think it makes more impact for that. Let's see, I thought there was a question that popped up, but no. Let's see. We have our oldest program is called the Emory Project. So way back at the beginning of Slow Food USA, in the USA, there was at Terra Madre, our chapter actually was nominated this group in Guatemala called the Chicken Ladies. And they were in a very small village in Guatemala, and they raised chickens. And they received an award from Slow Food International. And we have continued in probably the last 30 years in providing them money to buy different things to support their community. We bought indoor cooking units so that they had healthy or ability to cook healthy food without all the smoke in their units. We have bought them pigs, we bought them bees, we've given them money for school scholarships. And so that is a pretty strong program that we've been doing for a long time. We also have a book club. And since 2015, we have been doing the Snail of Approval as well. And like Gwen, I think the Snail of Approval has been one of those programs or projects that have really pushed slow food forward in Sonoma County. We get a lot of press because of the Snail of Approval. When we first started in 2015, it was us having to go out and say, we're doing this program and we really think you should be part of it. And we'd like to do the review and here's how it works. And people were like, oh, okay. And then this year, we have been getting so many applications from people that have heard about us, know someone else who has gotten the award and they want the award too. And people who have gone to Terra Madre and have heard about the snail and learned about just the snail, and then they come back to the area and go, oh, there's a snail. And so we've been, I think, really successful in getting farmers, restaurants, artisan producers, and now we're looking at expanding that to other groups. Like we have a group here called Farm to Pantry, and they're our local gleaners, and they glean hundreds of thousands of pounds of food every year. And it's donated to so many different groups, our local food banks, senior centers, medical centers, all these places where people who are food insecure can go and get food. And so we're hoping that we're able to get that going here pretty soon. Let's see.
We did have I was curious about something, but Stephanie also was curious about it. You mentioned earlier on like a bunch of grants and scholarships and indoor cooking units that your group had provided. And we're curious, like how, like where is that money coming from?
Where does that money come from?
Yeah.
So that's a great question, because each of our programs really are sort of independent fundraising units. Like the Emory program, there's one woman in particular and several of her friends who have for years, that's been their project. And they do solicitations, mail, email. They have a huge group of people that have worked with them for many, many years, and they raise the money on their own. So the board and our local chapter doesn't have to do a lot for them. A lot of our fundraising comes from all of our events. All of our events, except the annual meeting, have some fee attached to them. We do farm tours. Every month we try to do an event for our membership. And so one of them will be a farm tour. And we'll charge $10 for that. And you don't think that cost, that adds up, but it really kind of does over time. We do what we call 100-mile dinners, and those are usually auction items. And that is where someone or a group of people will purchase a dinner for a set fee. So we'll do 8 to 10 people, $125 a person. We come to your house. We'll set a menu with them, and then we'll cook it, we'll bring it, we serve it, and then we go away. We clean everything up and then we go away. And it's been a very popular event, and it really does really help us with our fundraising quite a bit. And yes, we have people who are chefs, we have people who have the food handlers certificates and all of those things. So that's that, and then we have every year we have our Terra Madre dinner, which is December 10th. And that is 30 to 40 people. And we'll have, this year we're going to have it at a winery. They're going to, so we don't have to pay for the facility. We'll make a dinner. We'll charge an amount where we can cover our costs and then have a little bit of money left over. Then we can do our, then we can pay our, for our seeds and our farm grant and those sort of things. So yeah, we're out there trying to raise money. We have a incredibly strong events team, a group of people who are happy to put together the events and bring in volunteers and just come up with better and better ideas. This year, we're going to do a couple of volunteer days, one at a farm called Farm to Fight Hunger, which is one of our snail farms. And we'll go and we'll glean food and send that to the food bank and the medical centers and wherever else they send the food that they grow. This is a couple of men who bought a farm, tore out all the grapevines, and are just raising food for donation only. So we try to seek out partners that we can do really important work with.
That's awesome. Yeah, and I love the volunteer perspective, and not everything needs to like have money or necessarily or like have money be a central part of it. And that makes me think back to, I spoke with Atlanta earlier this year about yes, they're holding all these amazing events, and they also had like a board pool party, and those are like really awesome events that may not at first glance push forward slow food in the area, but creating like a stronger like morale basis for your board members and for your chapter and a membership as well is really important. So yeah, so thank you for sharing just the whole gamut of how you're giving back to not just your community but beyond it. And yeah, thank you, Debbi.
You're welcome. You're welcome. And I'm really sorry, I have a cold, so I sound really funny, and I don't think I'm thinking all that clearly.
You're doing, fooled me, absolutely fooled me. Great. Well, that with that, that more or less concludes the formal part of the agenda. I just wanted to thank Debbi, the entire Atlanta crew, whether you're Slow Food Atlanta or Sabrina over at Emory, and Laura as well, and Gwen for being engaged and awesome and captivating shares of your experience, and the rest of you for having awesome questions and for showing up and being here this evening. But this will conclude the We Are Builders session. Like I said, we'll have the room open till like 9:30 or so. You can hang out and ask questions to folks. I know, Sabrina, we cut you off before you got to 2 awesome programs as well. But yeah, feel free to hang out, and really appreciated you all being here tonight. Thank you. Oh, wait, we did have a question from Karen earlier for Gwen. Where do you get the films from?
So our partnership with Utah Film Center is really crucial for that, and they help to find and you know, choose and acquire the films. A lot of times if you so the last one that we did just in July with Sundance Film Institute, this film Food and Country was shown at the festival this year in January, and this is the first time it was seen outside of the festival, so they were excited to have it shown locally before it goes national, I guess you'd say. And so the Utah Film Center has been crucial in helping us to find the films to work with. In the past, when we've done other kinds of events back when I was the chairperson, sometimes slow food chapters get contacted by filmmakers, or I remember when there was the honeybee thing many years ago, they offered a film so that, you know, they would just reach out and offer it, and that was a free screening without having to pay a fee. So that's how that comes about. The screening fees are usually somewhere around $100 to $500, so that's one of our costs that has to be paid with sponsorship.
Was that the question you had, Karen?
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. Sabrina, did you want to elaborate a bit on the other programs that you were having at Emory?
Yeah, sure. I think I kind of touched on it mostly. I summed it up. But as mentioned, the food recovery, that's just bringing food back to students on campus, and then the demos, it's just a way for students to stop by and chat with us a bit and learn about slow food. We've done citrus pithing when citrus season was in last semester. Um, we did trying to remember. We did spring rolls. I think that was a fun demo as well. And then students could come up and mold their own rolls. So yeah, that was all there was to it. I pretty much wrapped it up. Mhm.
You actually got a question from Willow in the chat. Are you
Um,
in succession plans and what happens when you graduate?
that's a good question. I have one more. I'm a junior, so I still have around 2 years. But I am hoping that like this year or next year, I've been keeping my eye out for like freshmen or sophomores that I think are like really involved. And I think my senior year, I'm gonna like take a few like under my wing and say and have them kind of like go through the process of like because there's a lot to run. We have like these three big initiatives, and I want them to know like the Sunday logistics, like getting volunteers signed up and maintaining a relationship with vendors, how to get funding if we don't have money from Emory, like getting donations, like for our food recoveries. I sent a couple emails and I got a donation of a few thousand containers that are compostable containers from an organization that really liked like what we were doing. So just like maintaining these relationships, I think like the next person that I take on, I want them to have like all of these relationships. But that'll be a senior year problem, I think.
Can I ask a quick question, Sabrina?
Mhm.
So, and I think somebody asked, I'm just curious, besides finding somebody to coach and mentor to take over when you leave, but what are your plans after graduation? What career field are you looking to go into? What? Yeah.
Yeah. I'm on the pre-med track. It's pretty common at Emory. It's MCAT season right now, so I'm preparing for that.
Good luck.
Thank you. But yeah, I love the health field and I really like the sciences. I work at a children's hospital. I do volunteering at a clinic. I'm very involved in my lab. We're working on a publication, so yeah, it's exciting. I like the sciences too. I do that as well, but yeah.
That's awesome. I hope you stay involved in children's health issues and nutrition security, and you're amazing. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
And if you stay in Atlanta, I think we might know some people who would really want your services.
Thank you.
I have a quick question for you, Sabrina, and for the Atlanta group. How much do you guys work together, and how much support does the Slow Food Atlanta chapter give to the university chapter? Campus chapter, yeah.
Should that be a me question? Thanks, crew. Well, first of all, we spend a lot of time together. We're a very close working group, the Atlanta board. We very honestly enjoy each other, and we're from all different places in life and in the city and careers. Emory became something that was really important to me. I'm an alum of Emory, and I sought out meeting Sabrina in 2020. And here's a little nugget, I guess, that would be useful to talk about the relationship. We were meeting, masked up and in backyards and whatnot. And one of those board meetings, Slow Food Atlanta decided to give a grant for a project at Emory with Sabrina and the Sandwich Project, which was a food justice initiative that has continued. So that year we gave $500. We happened to have had the money to give at the time. We partnered with Sabrina and the Sandwich Project and made 500 sandwiches for Emory Cares Day, which is every November. And then we vowed to do it again and double it, which we did. And we're doing it again in this November. Sabrina and I have a Zoom next week with the Emory Alumni Chapter. and we have two different groups that are going to be making sandwiches that day. One is a business students. They have a service project for their business school. And the other group is going to be Slow Food Emory and their whole team and the sandwich project team. But we planted that with just $500 seed money. And every year, like now the money's coming from elsewhere. It's coming, you know, from corporate team building. It's coming like from these alumni groups. It's coming from like the Emory Board of Visitors. But it's become a point of like Sabrina's really visible now, and the food justice initiatives are really visible. They're making sandwiches probably, I don't know, Sabrina, 4 to 6 times a year now on campus, at least. So, I mean, that was just something that was just very organic. And we do things like that in Atlanta. We enjoy each other and we get things done.
God, you guys are giving us so many ideas. I mean, never thought about tapping into relationships, you know, with alumni orgs, you know, from local universities. That's that's amazing. So thank you.
But look how enriching, look who I met, and I adore her. How do we not, like, I mean, she knows, and I don't mean to embarrass you, but I mean, she's going to take on the world someday, and I'll feel really good about that.
And I also wanted to, like you mentioning Laura, like, oh, this is how it works. Like, this is what we do in Atlanta. And it makes me think back to the Steven Satterfield book release event that you all had that was like wildly successful, and it sounded like it had an incredible turnout. And to be able to bring together, like, yes, the slow food world, but also like the community at large around something is like really inspiring. So that's all.
Yeah, thanks for that. And Steven's so inspiring. Everybody knows that.
We have a campus chapter here at the University of Utah. And so that's one of the reasons I was curious. They've, you know, kind of ebbed and flowed over the years, but it would be great to be able to partner with them in a more active way. And I know that I don't know, you guys, Brian and Dion, you can correct me, but the campus chapters can't like handle their own money. Is that still the true, like, is that still the way it is? And so that's one way to help them out, is to have that go through a local chapter. Is that the idea?
It's kind of a blurry line for like on our end, because we don't tell, or we don't like encourage university chapters to have a bank account, because in theory they're a club, and each club has like kind of like an allowance, so like a budget from the university. Sometimes they can get in donations, but it has to go through the university and have the line item says like for University of Utah or for University of New Hampshire Slow Food like club. But traditionally that's kind of the role itself. And also I wanted to have a nod to you two, Gwen and Debbi, about the Snail of Approval work you all have been doing. That program has expanded a wild amount over the past couple of years, to the point where we have institutions that are not even close to any specific chapter say like, how can we have a Snail of Approval? And we're like, there's not a chapter within 7 hours of driving distance to you. Like, how do we make this work? So thank you for doing that sort of effort on the ground, and getting the word out there for that. Sweet. Yeah, I mean, yeah, you can hang out if you want. There's like really not a ton of structure. I can also just like talk about life in this space. Yeah, it's I was curious if Slow Food Atlanta, if this is part of like a journal meeting for you guys or for you all. Are you just like gathering for said evening? Or just for a glass of wine? That works.
Yeah, they're muted.
Oh, they're muted.
Yeah,
Oh.
you guys.
What did you ask me?
Sorry.
Oh,
We were filling out the survey.
I take a step back and let you fill out the survey.
No, you're good. I'm sorry. Apologies.
No, I was curious if this was part of a meeting for you all for the month, or were you just gathering for the evening?
Oh, this is way more fun together, for sure. Yeah.
The evening.
Yeah.
We have our board meeting on Sunday.
Oh, solid. Oh, that's great.
And Andre and I did some planning on Tuesday, so we're now 3 for 3 this week.
That's good. You look out. You all just might move in together at this point. No, that's awesome.
Well, Dion, thank you for putting this together. And if no one has any questions for me, I'm gonna bounce here. Is that okay?
Yeah, feel better.
All right, thank you. Bye.
Thank you.
I do have kind of a general question for everybody if there's no other questions about what we talked about at the thing. My general question is, you know, I was the board chair for 10 years, and when I stepped off, I think that it left a little bit of a gap in terms of having somebody that wanted to really fill that chairperson role. And I'm wondering, like, how do other chapters go about finding board members? And do you ask a specific number of hours? Do you ask for specific qualifications for different positions? Like, how do you go about finding board members? Specifically, have you ever had to like look for a chairperson? And if so, how do you do that? How do you recruit? Just for anybody.
I can offer a suggestion. This is Kathy from Sonoma County North. I work with Debbi. We actually have gone the route of 2 co-chairs instead of 1. And they alternate with the meetings, like one will run the meeting and the other will do the agenda, or vice versa. And then if one is on holiday or ill, they fill in for each other. And then the idea is one of them will stay on, and then we'll bring on another co-chair. So then you have that continuity. It isn't like, you know, you're starting from scratch. And then each one of our board members kind of like oversees a project. Like one of the ones I did the research and did the work and got going was the Snail of Approval. Because when I came in, the other projects were all owned, and I didn't have one yet. So I kind of jumped in on that one. And then within that, we have a tier of people, because you not only want a head chairperson, you want champions for each of your projects that are going on. And then a critical thing for us is many of the people that chair a project are also on the events team. And our events team is awesome. So anytime we have an event coming up, like a Snail of Approval awards banquet, the events team is automatically part of that from the get-go. You know, for the food, the comm person is automatically. So there's a lot of, we work well together. And then we encourage people to invite a friend, a relative, a neighbor to come to our board meeting or come to any of our project meetings so they can see what we do. And we also, you know, that way we've gotten people, and we also put out a volunteer request for any of our events. And sometimes people that aren't on the board aren't even part of a project, but they're in membership. They come forward to be a volunteer, which they're already kind of expressing interest. And then they eventually join that project. So we open our seams every once in a while to let people in that normally aren't on that committee or that. And that's how we expand the circle. Because, you know, we've we've grown and we've contracted, and we want to reach all areas of Sonoma County.
Great, thank you. Good ideas and good points. Yeah.
Yeah, I also saw Willow hopped on there for a second, but wasn't sure if she had like any input on that too, but if not, totally fine.
I think it's something that probably all chapters struggle with at one point or another. So it's good to talk about it.
It came up last week during We Are Weavers. That was a big conversation.
Oh, I
Succession
wasn't able
planning.
to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'll have to listen to the recording.
Yeah, I think it was one of the chapters where they had a lot of people that left unexpectedly.
Mm.
Right, Dion? Is that how that went?
Yeah, I think a few folks had to, like a few folks left unexpectedly, and then also yeah, we can make sure. I'm not sure, Brian, if that is up. If last week's call was up. If not, we'll be getting it up this week, or maybe if not tomorrow, next week. But yeah, I think succession planning is very much like on the tip of everyone's tongue. Is I think we're kind of out of the space of people waking up out of COVID and coming out of that slumber, and now I think folks are saying either back on board or realizing that they are like, oh, I'm going to transition on to the next thing. So that succession planning is very much common throughout the network right now.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah. Yeah, even to like, I don't know, and even like within like the Slow Food USA team, like it's funny because like Brian and I we're going through some like give what you can stuff today, and Brian is like all things membership guru and like transactions, and the thing is like if one person knows everything and that person is sick or leaves, then other people don't know how to do things. So yes, succession plan is one thing, but generally learning how things operate with more than one person is it's kind of ideal.
You primed the pump. I had to, push one more time.
There's a few hours left. Yeah. Sweet. I know Lily had a massive farm dinner this last weekend with Slow Food Denver. It was like their big shebang for the year, which is pretty awesome. And also you mentioned that your husband's making you pizza, so hopefully that is delicious or en route. So
it's in my belly.
Okay.
That's why I went off camera.
Sure.
But yeah, I'm still a little in recovery, I think. Just a little dazed and confused after all that. But it was a good event and we met our goals. So
that's great. Yeah, Lily will be with us next week to chat a bit about stuff going on in Denver. We'll also have Slow Food New York City, and quite possibly an appearance from Slow Food and the Tetons next week, talking about how to like effectively tell your story, your chapter story, whether it's for specific grant purposes or getting the word out of our chapter, whether it's like it could be like press releases or things like that too. So yeah, but until then, Lily, you can definitely still be in like a dazed and confused state until like 5:55 p.m. on Thursday.
thank you.
Yeah. Absolutely. Lily Rockholt? I was curious where whereabouts you're coming in from, calling in from? If you're around, if not, totally fine. We can all live-
I'm calling from the East Bay. I'm like I just applied to be part of Slow Food East Bay.
Oh, awesome. Great. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks for hopping on.
Heck yeah.
Yeah. That's great. Yeah, this is awesome. Yeah, I know yeah, Willow's been like a rock star within the network. So you're under some lovely wings in that space. Thank you, Sabrina. Appreciate it. We'll see you soon. Cool. And then there are 8. Yeah, don't feel compelled to hang out, but you can also just like hang out and
Yeah. I want to say goodnight. It was really nice to see everybody tonight.
nice to see you as well. Thanks for coming in.
Take care.
Yeah.
I think I'm gonna run too. I got a BLT down there calling my name, so.
Yeah.
So thank you for having me. It's great to talk to everybody.
Cool. See you in a bit. Thank you.
Yeah, similar. There's an Eagles game I'm supposed to be watching, so I gotta go hang with my kids. So
See you later. Thanks, Lily.
thank you.
Shall we?
I think that's the night. So yeah.
Awesome. Thank
Wonderful.
you, Brian.
Yeah. See you later. See you Monday.
I'll see you later. Bye.
Bye.